So as the U.S. and Israel vow to move into the next phase of the war, Ottawa says consular officials are ramping up efforts to repatriate Canadian citizens and permanent residents trapped in the region. It's aware of more than 100,000 people who have registered across the Middle East, and many of them want help getting out. Earlier today, Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand highlighted the several ways Global Affairs Canada is helping those who are stranded get out of harm's way. She also reiterated the Carney government's stance on the war, saying there are no current plans for Canadian participation.
I want to be clear that we have no intention to participate in Operation Epic Fury. We were not consulted on this military operation and have not participated. I understand that General Carignan is in touch with a number of allies at the Chief of Defense staff level, and will continue to be coordinated in order to ensure that de-escalation and the protection of civilian life and civilian infrastructure is top of mind. As I mentioned, my focus is on the safety and security of Canadians.
So now, with more on the efforts to get people out of the region, we're joined by the CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Janice, we just heard from the Foreign Affairs Minister who provided that briefing this morning. She had updates, flights, ground transportation as well that's been organized. Is it enough?
Yeah, good question. Look, as often happens in these events, once people on the ground who are anxious find out that there is the possibility of receiving some assistance to get out of a region, the number of requests, registrations that come into Global Affairs tend to swing upwards, and that's exactly what's happened. Even in the last couple of days, a dramatic increase in the number of people requesting first information, but then perhaps departure assistance, either repatriation back to Canada, or at least to get out of the region to somewhere where they could be safe for the medium term anyway, or book connecting flights onwards. Here's a little bit more about the minister, about what they've been trying to do.
As of this morning, more than 108,000 Canadians in the region have registered with Global Affairs. Of these, approximately 3,500 Canadians have contacted Global Affairs to request assistance in departing. We are sending information directly to Canadians about the assistance being offered. At this time, our government continues to provide three types of departure options. First, charter flights, second, block bookings, and third, ground transportation when and where it is safe to do so.
So let's go through these in turn, starting with the flights. The government announced today that they have specifically chartered a flight. It will be leaving Dubai and going as far as Istanbul in Turkey. This would carry up to 180 Canadians or permanent residents. They are in the process of making that known to people in the region and getting those bookings sorted. They have also secured block bookings on some other airlines to get out of Dubai with Air Arabia. There are two flights this weekend, between 45 and 50 seats available on each of those flights. And also another flight from Dubai to Toronto with the Emirati airline, Air Emirates. That apparently block booking of 51 seats has completely sold out, but the government wanting everyone to know that it had done that. The cost of those seats recovered from the people taking advantage of the service that people on the ground at Canada's missions are helping them out with. So when you think about Lebanon, though, things a little bit perhaps more anxious in terms of being able to fly out of there, even just based on the pictures we're seeing this morning. There were two flights already that they secured bookings out of for Canadians out of Lebanon on March 4th for 75 Canadians and others. Yesterday, March 5th, they flew out 53 Canadians from Lebanon, and over the next 4 days, there are additional block bookings of up to 50 available for any Canadians who want to leave Beirut. Now, there are 23,000 Canadians known to be in Lebanon. Apparently, only 600 have reached out asking for information, and only 300 of those have requested departure assistance. So these block bookings that the officials on the ground have arranged, they're hoping will cover all who want to get out at this time. Ground transportation, another issue. 131 Canadians have left Israel using facilitation to get to Egypt by bus, arranged by the Israeli government. And new today is the provision of some ground transportation and coordinating with the Australians to get people out of Qatar to Saudi Arabia. And then from there, they could go onwards to some place that they felt more safe. 4 buses with up to 180 seats available to Canadians seeking to get out of Qatar. So all these various things available at a time when MPs are getting lots of requests from constituents, people with loved ones in the region about what to do. There was a briefing provided to all parliamentarians by Global Affairs yesterday, but in addition, a briefing happening actually at this hour for Liberal MPs who have not only been anxious about some of these logistics, but also have questions and things they want to discuss with Anita Anand about Canada's position about the conflict more generally. Of course, this has been a message migrating a little bit about the Canadian government's views on this, going back to the initial statement last Saturday. MPs with various concerns going to discuss this amongst themselves in advance of the House of Commons resuming on Monday. And of course, we do expect very vigorous debates about Canadian foreign and defence policy with respect to this war once all the MPs are back on Monday.
So now, while we understand, of course, those Liberal MPs are meeting right now, as you say, Canada's Chief of Defence Staff met today also about military support for Gulf allies. What more do we know about that meeting?
Yeah, this was a specific briefing arranged, and according to sort of social media posts by the chair of NATO's military committee, this a gathering of all 32 chiefs of defense staff of NATO alliance member countries, called in the wake of a particular missile fired from Iran targeting Turkey. Specifically, it was NATO defense systems that were alerted and launched an interceptor to defeat it. In the words of the Post, it's an example, a demonstration of how the alliance feels it needs to be postured, in their words, to defend against ballistic missiles threats. But it's also sort of a sign of why they are talking and moving more assets to the region and having serious conversations about where this conflict might go. It started off as being about replacing the supreme leader in Iran and destroying its nuclear capabilities, but it is now becoming something much more than that. Canada, as a member of the NATO alliance, watching this, not going to be part of the actual operation with Israel and the U.S., but depending on where things go and what its requirements and responsibilities are to the alliance, military planners, need to take note of what obligations Canada might have. And that's certainly becoming something we're going to watch.
Janice, thank you for this. That is the CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa.